Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal, the podcast. I am your host, Shawn Ellis, tonight, and I am here with Ms. Gwen Johns, the All Access Network television producer, and she would like to bring on my guest tonight.
I want to introduce him. His name is Matthew Brown, and he is, I have to say, hands down, the best OG grounding and shielding man out there. If you have never done it, if you've never talked about it, you need to listen to this man. He helps everybody, including the military, with this kind of thing. So, without further ado, the man himself, Matthew Brown.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I made you grin. How about that?
Oh, yeah. I'm thankful to be here and an OG. I really appreciate that.
You really are. You
Yeah,
help a lot of people with this, and it's wonderful. And I know that's not all you're going to talk about, and I'm going to leave you boys to it, but I had to do the introduction. I asked Shawn, could I? And he said, yeah. So you're welcome. So you guys have a good show, and we'll be in the back if you need me.
All righty.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank you for your service. Matt, because I know you're a hell of a guy. I actually had the opportunity to meet you about a month ago. You and Lee and Gwen and everybody, and you guys are really awesome. And thank you for the opportunity to come down there when I did.
Yeah.
And
well, I thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a great time having you here, and especially going to some of the places and investigations that we went in on, having that extra perspective. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely liked it when we had went to the Indian ceremony, when we had the drum dances and stuff out there. That was interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
All the things that they had out there. That was definitely a learning experience with how they do that. That was pretty cool.
Yes, it's amazing for people that have never experienced that. If you don't have to always be a member of the certain tribe to go to one of those powwows. So if you want to just go and experience it and kind of and feel that, it's an emotional change. It's a soul change. It's one of the great things you can do. I would suggest reaching out and getting involved.
Yeah, most definitely. It was definitely very interesting. And like I said, thank you for inviting me down there when that was going on. Because like I said, that's the first one I've been to, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've got Mr. Jeff.
Yeah, pretty good.
He's in the house, and he said, happy 250th, Matt. Yeah. And thank you for your service, brother.
Yes.
I need another.
The birthday of the Army, but it's the United States military. To be quite honest with you, it's it started right there, but very shortly after the Navy and the Marines came along. So, great. It was a great. I didn't get to see all of the parade the other day, but I understand it was amazing. We've been involved in a pretty intense weekend, and you know how it is when you go on one of those things. You got to catch up on life afterwards. So
yeah, most definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff. It's I've been in for 22 years now. I'm trying to figure out how to get out. I haven't figured it out yet. But
well, you definitely do good at what you're doing in your job for sure. Because I actually had the opportunity to come out and visit you when you were there as well, and you've got a lot of responsibilities. So yeah, like I said, thanks for everything you do.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you to any of your viewers that are military vets, and even the guys that are just in the service that haven't had the chance to go on a deployment yet. Thank you to all of you guys too.
And we got Margie Chrisley from 96, South Carolina.
Oh yeah, Margie. Yeah, 96 in the house. There you go. She was up there. She was She was involved in a pretty intense weekend this weekend for the paranormal in the Southeast. It was a pretty good weekend. So yeah, it's pretty good. Thank you, Margie. How are you doing?
I'm sorry if I slaughtered your last name. I'm not very good when it comes to pronouncing names, but
That's Blaylock. Yeah.
yeah. But is he one of your military guys?
Margie. Now, Margie
No, Jeff.
is. Oh, Jeff. No, I don't know Jeff. I may know Jeff, but I may not know Jeff. So uh, I meet so many people in this line of work, and then in my military line of work, and I am horrible with names. Oh yes, our photographer that came with us. Yeah, Jeff is awesome.
Ah,
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I meet so many people. I can't keep them all straight. We had a thing this weekend, and I was talking to a couple of guys, and someone came up and said, "Hey, Matt, how you doing?" And I was like, "Wow, how are you?" And it took me a moment to figure out who it was, but it was, the community that we're in. Of course, with my military community, and then the community that I'm in with the paranormal. It is a very close knit type of group of people. You can meet somebody one time, have a connection, and you don't see them for 10 years, and all of a sudden you meet them again, and boom, you're right there back at it. So, it's she thinks it's her show. My dog thinks that she's got to be involved in this.
I'm sure Guardian. I'm sure Guardian will get involved here before the end of the show. He normally does, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It just shows the good side of us that we got a little bit of pets and family and everything's involved all at the same time. So
yeah, my gargoyle thinks that she's got to protect me, or I've got to pet her 24/7. One of the two.
yeah. So let's get into a little bit about you. You have been featured on Paranormal Witness, Ghost Inside My Child, Family Spirits, and 24 Hours in Hell.
Yes, it's been quite an interesting journey with the paranormal. It's one of those things like, you have many people that get into the paranormal because they decided it was something they wanted to be a part of, and then you have people that get into the paranormal because they didn't have a choice. They were thrust into it, and that was me. I was one of those guys that was thrust into it, and it consumed, an, a place that I moved into was so overwhelmingly violently haunted that my entire perspective on the afterlife, religion, everything changed. Everything changed. I grew up in majority of my life. I was in the South, and in the United States, and we call it the Bible Belt of the South, and so everybody, there was, ridiculous amount of churches that were in the area, and everyone had their opinions and all of that too. And so I thought I had a pretty good grasp of what was going on, spiritually and religiously in the world, until this happened, and it was pretty overwhelming. And it's been a journey of education and educating others to make sure they aren't put in a scenario that I was in the very beginning, where I was kind of left alone and had to figure it out myself. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. Now,
So definitely the perspective of being in the house that you were in changed your insight and curiosity to dig in further to find out what is going on in the paranormal world, right?
Right. And, in the beginning, it was just survival. How do I survive this experience? How does my family survive this experience? How do I fight this? Physically, how do I fight this? Because I was a young kid. I was 15, and my stepfather was in school full time and working full time. He was in seminary of all things, to learn to be a pastor. And here we moved into an extremely haunted house, and we didn't have any way of
Oh.
getting information on how to deal with it, right? So um, we started having these things happen, these violent things happen, these haunted things happen, these experiences. But each one of the family members was a little worried. We just kept it to ourselves, and we didn't want to tell the other. And then finally, there was an event that happened in front of all of us, and myself, my mom, my sisters, and everybody, we sat down, we started talking about it, and we started connecting the dots and realizing that everything, all the paranormal things that were going on. And of course, because we didn't know, everything was demonic, right? Coming
Mm-hmm.
from a background, if it's not an angel that's standing there, bringing, tidings of good joy,
Right.
it's a demon, right? So there was no help. We went to the churches, we went to the clergy, and finally, it was ironically, I was doing some work with a family that were Mennonites,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very kind of close knit
Right.
religion. If you're not a part of it, you don't really understand everything about it. Um, and I worked for them on the side. They ran a dairy and a little construction business. And back then I worked like all the time to try to stay away from the home and busy.
Mm-hmm.
So the the owner's wife was a very educated woman. She came from journalism background, and the odd thing was this farm worked for the State Department, and they would bring in refugees from other countries, the political refugees, and they would house them and
Mm-hmm.
teach them how to work, and I mean how to adapt to American life, and then also getting information about where they came from during the
Right.
process. Um, and so she taught me how to how to go to the libraries and do research. And she said, first you got to start from the beginning. You got to go back to the roots of this place and figure out where it came from, what happened. And
Mm-hmm.
I was very shocked that the people that reached out to me were probably was one of those religions that kind of shuns you if you're not part of them and pushes
Oh,
you
wow.
away. It was
Right.
kind of a shock to me. Um, and eventually we found out what was going on, and we were able to put in the effort to fight it, to break away from it. Um, this place had the ability to manipulate even a power bill, um, to draw so much energy out of this house after while we were entrenched in this spiritual warfare with
Mm-hmm.
these entities that had been put in this house.
Did
Um,
did it actually did it actually make you and your family sick at the time as well?
Oh wow! It was so we not only were sick, but it pushed my sister down while we were doing an anointing on the house. It pushed my sister down the stairs, and we were outside looking in, and we saw her through the window, cartwheel tumbling down the stairs. Um, and she screamed as she was going down. We got inside, and she had that look of screaming on her face, but nothing was coming out, and I didn't know
Right.
if she was breathing or what, but she was terrified, screaming. And she was the only person upstairs at the time, and when she finally came to, someone pushed her, and her arm was fire red hot, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
bulge. And we my wife my mom and myself both had anointing oil on our hands at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we both laid hands on it. And our first thought was to isolate it, because if it's broken and moving around, we got to isolate it so it's not
Mm-hmm.
creating more damage.
Right.
Well, while we were isolating, we put our hands on it, and that oil got on it, and we just started praying, to try to get her to calm down and to try to slow the pain and help her focus on what was going on, because she was in a bit of a panic, and rightfully so, you know.
Right.
And while we were doing that, we both felt her arm pop right back into place in our hands. Myself and my mom felt it pop right back into place, and her came back to her, and she sat up and she looked at it. She said, "Okay, I'm good now. I want to go play," and got
Huh.
up and walked off. And me and my mom are sitting there like, "What just happened? This makes no sense." You know,
So
her
do you,
arm was broken in our hands.
so do you think what entered her, it could have possibly entered her and made her walk down the stairs and instead of being pushed because of the way that manifested in her arm and stuff?
Well, I believe that. So, I mean, I know she fell down the stairs
Mm-hmm.
because we literally could see through the window.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw her, her hands were going down and her feet were coming over her head. So, and that was where she was at on the stairs. She was about halfway down the stairs. So, you know, she did at least 3 tumbles going down the stairs.
But what I'm saying is, do you think that spirit went inside of her and made her walk down the stairs and made that tumble go with instead of being pushed because of the effects that you were getting with the anointing oil in her arm?
It's, you know, it's quite possible that could have happened. It's one of those things where you took the little wins that you could, and you know, you put the effort into trying to figure out exactly what happened, but it was so overwhelming. There was always something else going on. um it was not paranormal and spiritual things happening, you know, occasionally. It was on the hours. I mean, it was every moment. You, as soon as you got past something and you worked through something, something else was popping up. And
Mm-hmm.
when we got to a certain point with this place, we had it pretty calm, and you could bear living there. Um, all of a sudden, the power bill shot up. Now, this is in the early '90s. It shot up to over $800 a month,
Oh, wow.
which would probably be 2 grand a month now.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and of course, that was alarming, not only for us, you know, where did this come from in a house that, you know, didn't have central heating and air, you know. So the only true things that you were doing with power on the regular basis was, you know, a stove, a refrigerator. We didn't have a dryer, so a stove, refrigerator, a hot water heater, and lights. You know, how are you burning that much power?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the power company came out, and they went through, and when the guy saw how much power was running through the house, he says, "I've never seen a house draw this much power without being on fire." He said, "This
Right.
house should be on fire right now," which, you know, did great things for our nerves. You know, it's like,
Right.
wow. So this, you know, something's going on. This house should be burning to the ground right now. So we, what we ended up doing is they went in into the panel and started just disconnecting everything, till they found what was drawing so much power. And the entire panel was disconnected. Everything was out. All the breakers were out, and the thing was still drawing 800, you know, enough to create an $800 bill. It was drawing that
Oh,
much
wow.
energy. So the house, the entities and the spirits that were in the house were trying to grasp every amount of energy they could, because they weren't stealing it from us anymore, because we knew what they were. So they weren't drawing that energy and power from us anymore. They were, you know, they were on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as we removed ourselves as a conduit for them for energy, um, they went into a panic and started doing everything they could to try to take what they considered their property and their land back. Um,
So I guess that leads me to another question. Was it
sure.
the ground that was spiritually attached to, or the house itself, or a combination of both?
So it was a combination of both. So the house was originally the original house that was built there, was built just in the height of some of the settlers and Indian wars that were going on. And there was a massacre that came through that area that killed a lot of the settlers. And it's believed that the original house was set on fire during
Oh,
that time.
wow.
And then a house was built exactly on top of it. And every member of every family, every generation that lived in that house had somebody die in that house. Well,
Hmm.
to the point where even after the primary families that were living in that home moved away and people started renting the house, renters were dying in the house, and they may have been there only a year or two. Some of them even less than that. So it turned into a house of death that was just taking everything from somebody and then taking their life,
So
on
do
the regular.
so maybe one of the spirits is possibly a energy vampire on top of it with that ability to suck energy from anyone in there plus the energy in the house?
Yes, and there were so many things that were bound to this place. When we first moved in, there was a lady that was going through, that was a realtor that had set up the rental of this place, and she told us, you can't ever go in this building. This building is completely off limits. It had a lot of little outbuildings all the way around it, including an old blacksmith shop and a carriage shop for making carriages and a lot of little old places. It was kind of cool as a kid. It was all these
Hmm.
places I could go and adventure and find out all this deep things.
Right.
But there was a giant Persian rug laying on the floor that pretty much almost covered the entire room in a house that only had hardwood floors throughout it. And um, ended up, um, sorry, it was just an odd sound of maybe some gunshots or something outside. Um, uh, so this place, she said the owners own this place. They don't mind you taking care of this, but they don't want you to ever remove this rug out of this room.
Hmm.
And my mom was like, "That's fine. It's a pretty rug." Well, when we finally got to the point where we had enough and we had to leave, my mom and my siblings, they left. They moved into another house, and my stepdad and myself came back to work on cleaning the place up. And we were sweeping and mopping, and we rolled that carpet back to sweep under it and mop under it and let it dry. And when we rolled it back, there was a giant pentagram drawn
Oh,
with all these different emblems in the floor. And there was like places where wax had burned into the floor. So there were all these different ceremonies, that were going on in this thing. And it was intense. So it was like that aha moment that you figured out, oh, this is where it came from. You know,
hmm.
what had basically happened is a family that had lived there before was using that, had opened up these portals and allowed all this stuff in and trapped it and bound all these spirits in this house for the sole purpose of draining energy and life from the people that were renting it. And
Wow.
they showed up just a couple hours later after we cleaned it. We went ahead and covered it back up
Hmm.
and cleaned it, and just we're still kind of in shock of that. And this Cadillac comes pulling up in the yard, and these three sisters get out of this car, and it's like the who's who of, you know, the celebrity acting world getting out. It
Hmm.
was the one lady got out, looked like Marilyn Monroe, just stepped out of a car,
Right.
and was walking up towards me. These women were gorgeous that were walking in. And yeah, it's 15-year-old. Of course, I'm looking
Yeah.
at that, right? And
Right.
I was just like, golly. And they had an air about them too that was just like um, untouchable, but extremely desirable as they came in.
Hmm.
And they came into the house and they were walking around, and they seemed to not care that we were leaving because somebody else was coming in, and the sisters, we were giving them the keys, and they went in. One of them went inside, and we were talking to the other ladies outside, loading up our last little bit of stuff. And this lady came out in a rage, and she looked at us and she said, "What have y'all done?" Now, granted, we'd fixed a few things in the house,
Right.
painted some stuff because the house kind of had a dark air. It's like
Mhm.
everywhere you
Right.
turned, it felt like the house was dark, right? Everywhere you turn. So we painted and lightened some things up, and took care of it. Um, she said, "What have you done to this place?" And we're thinking, it's better than now than it was when we got here.
Yeah.
uh, and it kept on, and she went on. She's like, "I can't believe you guys did this." And I'm like, "What is going on with this woman?" And she turns and looks at her sisters and says, "There's no more spirits here. They're all gone. They've run them all out." And we're like, "What?"
So they were the triunity behind it, right? All three of them?
Yes, they brought them all in, and they looked at each other and said, "Well, we'll just have to have a seance and bring them all back tonight." And me and my stepdad looked at each other like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." At the point, we were so thrilled to be done with the place and over and in it behind us that, the realization of what we had just heard hadn't sunk in. We
Right.
were just ready to get the hell out of there. I mean, it was
Wow.
such an intense experience. Um,
So
and I mean, if
technically,
we
I
talk,
was going to say, technically, anybody that moved in there was pretty much their entertainment almost.
it was their entertainment. We were the last tenants that lived there for any longer than 3 months. The next set of tenants that moved in there was 3 months. Then they turned it into a hunting lodge. So with it being a
Mm.
hunting lodge, now it has its death hold, its stranglehold. It's
Hmm.
still being fed that energy and that life force energy, but it's not taking it out on people anymore.
It's
So
not on a permanent basis where somebody's living there and draining them themselves. And it's a
right.
variety of people and small portions of everybody when they come there.
Yes. And so for me, that was the beginning. I'm like, I told myself, I've got to figure out a way to understand everything that I just experienced and to make sure that nobody else goes through this alone again. Um,
Hmm.
so, how do you find somebody to be a part of your life that can fully understand that? Right.
Yeah, most
And
definitely.
I got, I got lucky
You
and
did.
love potion number 9, reapply annually. It works great. I looked up and found Lee Triana, and her family had been paranormal investigators her whole life, and uh, it was amazing. She understood what I'd been through, and wanted to join right in there with me. So when we started, our journey together, and we decided we were going to learn as much as we could, and we were going to teach as many people as we could about it.
Yeah.
It turned out to be great, you know,
Yeah.
my
You,
yin, my yang.
I would definitely say you're very lucky at that because, like I said, to find somebody that's your partner in this and being able to understand it, not think you're crazy, and understand what's going on with the energy and the other spirits that come along with that. That's pretty awesome to be able to do that and be able to do it together and
Yeah,
progress and actually still learn. That's a really good thing.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing. And then, for us, our journey together, um, trying to figure out, um, both, what's our next step, where are we going from here, and then learning about our children, as we were getting our attunements and learning Reiki and different energy things. One great thing is Lee got her Reiki master attunement while she was pregnant with our son. So therefore,
Yeah.
it transferred into him. So when he was born, he didn't lose anything. He retained all of the knowledge and all of the information that he had from previous lives and previous experiences. And if I believe that is the next step in human evolution. If we can work on enlightening ourselves from the beginning,
Oh
if
yeah,
we
most
can work
definitely.
on enlightening ourselves, if you're working on enlightening your children while they're in the womb, and you never stop, and you know can you imagine what the next 20,
Oh
30, 40
yeah,
years are going to be like?
that would be that'd be amazing. As in the fact of everybody being able to have that type of senses, that type of communication, and being able to feel that energy around them,
Right.
and not be scared of it as well. If they were born with it and born into it, with because I know when you read books to your children when they're in their womb, they actually seem to become a lot smarter because they're
Yes.
picking up on what you're reading, what you're telling them, and it does stay with them, and they do
Yeah.
remember it.
Yes, it does. And back when I was a child, they used to say, listen to your favorite music around your kids, and let the music, let them pick up on the sounds and the rhythms and everything. And
Mhm.
everybody's like, listen to Beethoven, listen to this, and that's, but this is just next level of that.
Right.
Have a
Most,
Reiki attunement, learn Qigong, while you're pregnant, or include your children in that. And
most definitely.
don't don't exclude them because you think that something is going on with their age, and bring them involve them in it. And it, that was our next journey, raising psychic children, and learning that everyone else needed to be a part of that. And there was so many people reaching out to, hey, how do I do this? My kid tells me about things that happened before I was born. How do I work with them on that? And the funny thing is, one, do the research and see if what they're talking about,
Most
and
definitely.
and then um, go on that journey with them, because it's amazing. It's amazing what they see and hear and feel.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know when I was there with you guys, and Lee actually showed me a painting of one that her son made or your son made, and I thought it was really strange that the fact, after we went to go see the hieroglyphics on the rock, that
Mhm.
that picture had that same image in the one he painted, and he's never been there.
Right. Yeah.
That's got me really in suspense, and really would like to dig into that myself. Isn't the fact of, because like I said, if it comes with some of the attunements and everything else from what happened, is that why he picked up that image and being able to paint that?
Yes. Yeah. It's, I believe 100% that's where that, one of the things that came from, past experiences that he may have had, past life experiences, or just um, because actually he painted that before we went the first time. So
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have even been a shared memory that we had that was passed on to him, or that he may have picked up on. It was a past experience that he had, that came through.
Yeah,
Um,
because I happened to see that, and then I showed Lee that, and I'm like, it's the same image of what's on that rock, and
yes,
it's like, whoa, this is interesting.
right.
So
And that place that's where we were this weekend. That place is amazing. It never ceases to amaze me what happens there and what goes on there. We're talking about, there are Native American petroglyphs carved into rock at Haggard Mill in Pickens, South Carolina, and it's an old Native American trail that went through there, and then a settlers trail, the actual road that you walk on going through the the historical site is the old road that's there. There are old cabins that are there. There's an old mill that's there, with a water wheel that still functions and still works.
Oh yeah.
And there's so much history. So you've got ancient history for, settler wise over 200 years, but then you've got extreme ancient history for the Native American people that were here, carvings that date back 12,000 years.
Oh yeah.
So it's an amazing site.
It's definitely very interesting. I'd have liked to got down next to that rock and actually put my hand down there on it and feel that, because when I was standing above it just looking at it, I could actually feel the energy off it in some places. And it makes you wonder. It makes you really think of where those hieroglyphics and why they were put on there.
Yeah. Just to have a little fun with yourself, watch some episodes of Ancient Aliens before you walk in there and look at it, because they've done a great job of preserving them, and they've got a light show that kind of gives you a description of what we know currently, and what historians know and archaeologists know and can kind of figure out. But it's not a firsthand glimpse as what's there. So
right.
You don't know 100% if that's what's right and what's accurate, which I don't think. I think it's as good as we can get it at this point, but there's a lot more to that story. That's at that place.
Next time I get a chance and I do come up there, I'd really like to dig into that whole thing with you guys and see what we actually come up with, because that, I think, would be an interesting thing to just dig into and have a whole thing about it.
Yeah, it's amazing that you can be in the U.S. and you're not out, and you're not in Egypt somewhere. You're not in some Far East location. Finding that you're in the U.S. and not only are you in the U.S., you're in the in the Appalachian Mountains in South Carolina.
Right.
And there's so much energy and history there. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, Thomas brought up a question here, which we're going to get into a little bit, because you're also the author of Spiritual Grounding and Shielding, Victorian Ghost and Haunting, and the Journey into the 19th Century Supernatural Investigations as well. So let's dig into a little bit of the grounding, and we'll start off with Thomas's question here. He said, Matt, what is your favorite grounding technique and intention toward the spirit?
Well, when we talk about grounding, let's get into before we get in too much into that, let's get into the biomechanics of it. So there are things that we've done as human beings that we've lost our ability to have that natural connection, right? That natural connection to the earth. And the body is a power plant, right? It uses biomechanical process of decay, which creates electricity in our body, and mainly DC electricity in our body, and we use that to communicate everything you do. I mean, when you're snapping your fingers, that's an electrical pulse that's going through your body. If you have if you have a power generator, or if your power at your home all of a sudden loses ground, your power goes wonky. It starts getting these spikes, and grounding is balancing power, right? So if you don't have a good ground, your power is going to be all over the place. Everywhere, right? So if you get to the roots of that, we are basically a walking power plant, a generator, and we maybe weren't meant to be walking around with rubber bottom shoes on, There's a lot of places that won't let you walk around barefoot, right? And it may not always be the right. We've become tender with our feet over the years, and our process of making connection with the earth, and so we have to work on bringing that back in. If there's going to be times where you can't get that energy balance that you need just
Mm-hmm.
because of your life. I mean, I'm in the Army. I wear combat boots all day long.
Right.
They're definitely not grounding boots, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's just like me wearing steel
uh,
toes all the time. It's
right.
you got the electricity grid things in them, but
So
definitely
there are some amazing things that are out there, though. There are now um, grounding mats that you can get, grounding sheets that you can get. Um, but the good old fashioned way of getting your feet in the dirt and getting in the soil and reconnecting with the soil is the best way to do that, right?
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
and if you've got a day where even if it's raining, that's even when it's even going to work better, right? If you get outside and you put your feet in that soil, and those books that we wrote originally were um, textbooks for the college courses that we teach, the parapsychology courses that we teach. And so when you when you get those, they've got like little places where you can work in and put your notes and actually make that part of your journey, figure out what your journey is on that. Um, but if you you best thing to do is to get that image that you want of where you want to be, right? And where you want to be when you're grounding, just get that image of like a mighty oak tree that has these roots that extend into the ground and almost as much as what you see above, right? So
mm-hmm,
don't look at yourself as stopping on the plane of, you know, here I am above the earth and everything else is below me. Mentally and physically put yourself in that plane where you extend into the earth and become part of it.
right,
And once you become part of it, you start that balance, right? And you will see and you will notice that balance. And one of the things I talk to my students about is how many of you are water babies, right? How many of you go to the ocean and can't wait when you get there to get out there and get those feet in the put those feet in the soil and get barefoot in the ocean and allow that salt water to hit you. Well, salt water is a
right,
perfect grounding solution,
yeah,
right? And what people don't realize is that is their initial ground when they hit that, and it changes them, right? It balances their power, and now it's allowing that negative energy that's been built up inside of you to wash out, right? To push out
mm-hmm,
into the soil.
right,
And if you can practice that, your time, we don't all have hours a day to go and stand in the beach. I wish we did. Um, and put our feet in the sand and let the salt water rush across us. But so you've got to take advantage of what you can. And then
mm-hmm,
you got your green thumb people, your people that got to get in the dirt, got to plant something. I got to do something. I only feel connected to the earth when I've got my hands in the soil, when
right,
I got my hands in the dirt, right? And that is another good way. You can connect with the ground, you can connect with the soil and ground your energy by putting your hands in the dirt and pushing that energy into the dirt. Um, so there's a lot of different ways that we have to do that. You go back to your basics, which, of course, using your feet to ground, using your whole body to
right.
ground. You can lay on the ground, um, using your hands, putting your hands in the soil. And these are ways that most people ground that don't even realize they're doing it.
Right. That's one thing I actually like doing. I'll run around the yard barefooted all the time, and then sometimes I'll just go out in the backyard and just lay down in the back and just meditate for a while and
Yes.
just take in that energy, because you can definitely feel the difference after you've done it.
Yeah. One of the fun things that I do is I've made these little handles for my meter, my ohm meters, and I'll take a ohm meter and allow students to go out, and when they kick their shoes off and they see their power is doing this crazy wave, they
Mm-hmm.
kick their shoes off and they put them in the ground and they start to ground, and then all of a sudden it smooths out and their energy level smooths out. It's an amazing uh, visualization of seeing it. You feel it, but now you visually see it, and that's a big change for people too. to be able to see that. Um, but getting back to it, I want to say that, once you find what works for you as far as location, some of you may live in a city, so you don't have the ability to just go out and find some soil, and I believe that's what part of a lot of tension that happens in those environments, right? So those grounding mats are really good. Every building has got a ground, so if you can tap into that ground, by code, every power system that's run to a building or anything like that has got a grounding system. So you can tap into that and utilize it, and find what works for you. But if you keep that mental visualization of I'm expanding my energy into the soil, and just get that mighty oak tree, right? And when you when you open up your chakras, right? Open up your chakras to allow that energy to come in and work your way down. You're not going to just come up to the, all of a sudden you're going to have open chakras, from the top to the bottom. Start at the top and work your way down and open those chakras up and allow that energy to flow through you, right? And you always want to out with the good and in with the, out with the bad and in with the good. Strike that reverse.
Yeah.
Right. You always want to push that energy out. So by flowing that energy through you, now you're allowing yourself to push out the negativity that we carry all the time, and sometimes you pick something up from a coworker or somebody that's in your life, and you're carrying it along with you. So, and you can only imagine in my line of work, sometimes I have some very negative coworkers and environment and then work environment that I'm in. Right. So, you've got to make sure that you're not carrying that with you. You've got to let it go. Right. Because it can consume you, and it will consume you if you're not careful. So
most definitely
push that, take that, find yourself that location, get your feet on that mat, those mats, get your feet in that soil, and push that energy. What you want to do is physically feel like you're pushing that energy through your body, and push that energy all the way. Open those chakras, allow that energy, that fresh energy, solar energy to come in, that lunar energy to come in, and allow it to push through your body into the soil, right? Make sure you're taking some deep breaths, feel yourself, expand your lungs, feel yourself, open those chakras, push that energy through and out, disperse it out into now your feet that have extended into roots into the soil or into your grounding mat, whatever you have, and push that energy through. And it's really amazing for me when I get someone who's never done this before in their life. And sometimes it happens with students. You get somebody who's a new student that doesn't fully understand all of that, and they need to,
I think it's pretty awesome when, you get a rookie in there that, like you said, that don't understand it. And then you see the expression on their face change when that energy changes as well.
Right.
And that's awesome when that happens, because then it starts like a wake up call.
Right. Yeah. And, you see that demeanor change, right? And you see that negative energy when you meet. Sometimes you'll see that negative energy that they're carrying around. That their face is sagging. They've got they're loaded down with everything, right? Their complexion's bad because they're not getting good circulation. They're not taking in the full amount of oxygen that they need to take. It's not getting out to their systems, right? They're having neuropathy problems because their circulation is bad, and if you can expand on that and get that negative energy out, it's going to open up everything else for the good blood flow, the good oxygen flow, and allow yourself your body to have a good communication with it, with everything that's there.
I know one thing that I've experienced the most: when you're very well grounded and balanced, it's easier for you to heal and maintain that, because that energy flow is going to everywhere. But once it gets distracted and blocked, it's kind of hard to shake it unless you actually sit there for a period of time and refocus it and rebalance it back out.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. That healing energy is traveling through those blood cells, and going to where it needs to heal and repair. And if there's obstacles along its way, it's not going to have the ability to get there, right? And if it doesn't have a
Mm-hmm.
good, if you've got to take a curvy back roads way of getting there versus an interstate, if we're trying to heal, let's get the interstate. Matter of fact,
Right.
let's take the chopper and get there, right? So
Right.
so expedite that travel as fast as we possibly can. So that's one of the things we're
Right.
doing, is pushing that energy through and getting to that point, getting where we need to do. And one of your listeners, I saw them pop up, doing a mud bath, right?
Yeah.
So that that water and that soil are going, the more hydrated that soil is, the better it's going to take, it's going to create a ground, right? That's why,
Mm-hmm.
people that love to get in rivers and things like that, that flowing water, get their feet in the soil and getting their feet in the sand. That's why they have such a, they ground so much. Don't even, not everybody realizes that's what they're doing, but that's um, a great point that she made,
Yeah.
is to add that extra aspect to it of, the higher the moisture content in that soil, the better off you're going to ground.
Yeah.
So
That's one of the things when I actually start to meditate, sometimes I'll actually be around the water so I can pick up the energy from that water. I'll stick my feet in that water when I'm meditating and actually just absorb that energy as well.
and an important
So
aspect of that
that's
too is lunar energy, right? So let's make sure we don't forget
mm-hmm.
about doing this. Everybody goes out there in the daytime and they get in the sun and they go and they do this, but don't forget your lunar energy, because your lunar energy is filtered, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting some of the harmful stuff. It's filtering, and you're getting a little bit more pure energy from pure solar energy that you can
Mm-hmm.
absorb, right? So if you got a full moon and you can get out there, I'm not saying go outside and howl at the moon. Now if you're gonna howl, it's optional, but if you want to go outside and do that, but yeah, if you can get outside and you can pull that energy at the same time, um, it's gonna bring down more. You're gonna absorb so much more, right? So
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I've actually done some energy work with people when it's been a full moon, and you can definitely tell the difference afterwards. And you can tell the transfer of that bad energy sometimes actually leave, and it actually helps you get stronger as well. Because somebody told me one time when I was helping them with the energy work, they actually have me feel through their skin, through their chest, where their chakra was, because
right.
that's how much energy we were focusing into trying to realign and get everything back to normal again. And they definitely could feel that energy when we were starting to realign everything.
Yeah. And something for your listeners that maybe not fully understand what we mean by chakras. So imagine, from an electrical point of view, those are bus bars. Your spine, your head, your spine, all the way down, all that's a bus bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Electrical bus bar, and that's where your breakers are sitting, right? And that energy's coming in, so you're flipping these breakers on and off, all the way down, right? That energy is being transferred out to your limbs, to your organs, to everything. And if you don't align, if you've got to start where your source is at, right? You start where that electrical current is coming
Mm-hmm.
from as your source. And for those that don't fully understand what we mean by chakras, just, hey, this is your circuit board, right? This is your bus bar. This is where you're turning your power on and off. right? It's easy to remember that way. Your third breaker is tripped. You need to open it up. Your third chakra, no, your third breaker. All right. So it's a little trick I use for especially some of the newer folks that don't fully understand it, or are people that just prefer to stay. They want to understand spiritual but they prefer to stay in the scientific realm.
Right.
It allows you to attach it to something else.
I know another thing that actually helps me pretty well too is actually a fire. When you're around a fire, you could actually absorb that and realign your chakras as well, and use that energy in that from that heat and to reabsorb all that. And it actually does help as well to straighten things up.
Yes, yeah. Fires are wonderful things. You're not only getting the thermal energy that's coming off of it, but you're getting rapid decay. So that fire, whatever's burning in that fire, is decaying rapidly, right? So,
Right.
and decay, honestly, is a change of state that creates electricity for us for everything. That's how your batteries work. That's how we make power.
It's kind of interesting because when I had a shaman, we were talking one time, and it hit me when he said it, and I guess I never really put it in perspective until he said it. But he said a fire can destroy it, and a fire can start it. So it can work in both directions depending on how you want to use it.
Yes, yes, that's very true. That's very true. And sometimes we just got to slow down and shut out some of the things in our life that are overwhelming and focus on one or two things. I know for me, with the jobs that I have, with the hectic lifestyle of running multiple businesses and taking care of families and then still being in the military, on multiple levels in the military, it, sometimes those hectic things in life, you take on so much, right? And you're constantly thinking about what's my next move, what have I got to do this, where am I going next, and sometimes you just need to shut that off.
Mm-hmm.
And for people like me, it's very hard to turn off. And if I can't turn it off, I can redirect and I can focus on something totally different, right? So sometimes I just need to stop, focus on that moment of grounding, that moment of shielding when it comes time to do that, that moment of taking in the environment that I'm in, listening to what's going on around me as far as what the earth is trying to tell me. So
Jeff,
that is healing in itself, right?
Jeff mentioned something here that I find kind of interesting. It says, I lose all senses of reality around a fire and find myself staring off into the flames for hours. Well, that could be as the fact the energy is trying to relate and give you information as well. And it could be your guides as well, trying to teach you something new as well, especially if you're fading off into that fire and that energy is being absorbed and you don't even realize it.
Right. And how natural is that for us, right? It's a natural thing for us because we not only use fire, for heat, for thermal thermal energy for us to get. We use it to protect ourselves. We use it to feed ourselves. We use it for so many things in life. Excuse me. That modern day has taken away from us, right?
Oh yeah,
but
I
it is
definitely
such an aspect of who we are as a being and on this planet that we have kind of removed ourselves from. And there's healing in that. There's healing in that, pulling that energy out of it and taking that time to slow down and focus on what's around you and focus on that moment.
Because sometimes, like Christy says here, it's a very intense trance. And it can be at times, especially when you get into starting to work with energy and especially with the fire, it does get pretty intense at times.
Yeah. And, the thing to remember is sometimes we hold on to stuff a little longer than we should. We don't forgive ourselves for things. We don't forgive others for things. I know I'm really bad about that.
I
And
think we're all guilty
a
of that
lot
at
of
times.
times we need to focus on allowing that to be, to allowing ourselves to say, hey, you may not have made a great decision in this, but it's not an ending decision, right? You can
True.
still grow from this and move on,
Hmm.
and allow yourself to let that energy go and pull in, let the bad out and let the good in, right?
Yeah, I definitely
And
agree with that.
do we have time to talk about shielding, or are we running out of
Yeah,
time
I
here?
mean, we can go another half hour if you like. That's fine. I mean,
So,
everybody seems to be interested in this conversation, so yeah, let's go for it. I mean,
so, um,
I know you've had a long day, but if you're into it, let's go.
yeah. Well, somebody in this group I can feel needs to hear this, right?
Yeah,
And if it's just one person that needs to hear it, it's worth the time to take and put into it, right?
sounds good to
So,
me.
um, shielding is a very important thing, and it's a very important thing to me. And people do it, and they don't even realize they're doing it. Maybe not as good of a level as they should be, but I want to give you a visualization when it comes to shielding. You're out there and you've done your ground. You're that mighty oak tree that's been out there and pushed those roots into the ground, and you're pushing out that bad energy to the earth. And which one thing I want to remind you guys too is, if you push your negative energy into the earth, it heals the earth. You're not hurting it. You know, it grows. It is food to the earth, right? It takes that and uses that as energy to grow and expand, right? So don't think that what you're putting something bad into the earth that's going to affect somebody else. No, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's that process of decay. It takes that negative energy and it grows. It turns it into something positive for us. It turns it into oxygen for us and everything. So your negative energy is life healing to the earth. So you have to remember, we're sentient beings here, and we help each other, right?
Hmm.
The planet wouldn't be what it is without us, and we wouldn't be what we are without the planet, of course, right?
Yeah,
So
no
don't think
doubt.
you're going to do anything damage. Don't think you're going to hurt it, right? It can take it, and not only can it take it, it can make something very positive and good out of it. With that being said, when you've grounded and you've put your energy into the ground, and you're now circulating that energy through, and you're pushing the bad out and taking the good in, um, I want you to envision that mighty oak tree. Now let's pop an umbrella, boop, over the top of it. All right. So now imagine you're sitting in a rainstorm, and you've got this umbrella over your head, and this massive rainstorm's coming down. What's happening? You've got these sheets of water coming off around you. You're protected from it, right? You've got this umbrella over your head that is
Hmm.
protecting you from this rain. This is the visualization that I want you to have when you're working on your shielding, right? Because you'll encounter somebody at some point in time, if not on a daily basis, that is just full of negativity, that
Oh yeah.
changes a room when they walk in the room,
Oh yeah.
that oozes, negativity, and you just like, I can't stand being around this person. What is wrong with them? I don't hate them, but when they come in the room, I can't stand to be around them,
Yeah.
right? Um,
It's just like a vulgar or a deep, heavy feeling around it as well, and
yeah,
you can't shake it unless you just get up and walk away, or unless you know how to convert it, because you can convert that negative energy into something positive, but
right.
it takes that time to understand how to do that as well.
Well, this is a way, and when you learn to shield, now you've picked up a new tool for the toolbox, right? That allows you to be in that environment without that environment even noticing you're there, right? So you
Hmm.
can be in that environment and basically be invisible to what's around you, right? So that energy where you have that, you've opened up all those chakras to get that energy to flow into you and through you. Now you reverse it. Okay. Don't do this until you've learned to ground. This is next level,
Yeah.
right? Learn to ground first. Now you reverse it and you take those chakras and you start pulling that energy from your feet through, through the soil into your body, all the way up through your chakras. And now you're going to push that energy out. And what you want to do, that energy is going to rain down around you, right? And if you see people doing, say, Tai Chi, and they do the energy grab and they're pushing that energy up, right? And then
Hmm.
they're expanding that energy. That's exactly what they're doing, right? It just has a different name for it. But this is exactly what you're doing, right? So you're pulling that energy in and you're expanding that energy out and down and around. And what this energy does is it creates a shield around you where some of the non-human entities and the negative entities that are around you can't see you and they can't penetrate it. They may be able to see you, but they can't get to you, right?
Right.
So you created a force wall, right? So imagine now you've just taken, these are two magnets that are same pole now, and they repel each other and they can't get through. So this is something I feel like it takes a lot of practice,
It
and
does.
everybody
Yeah.
should work on practicing this. And that's one of the things our books are about. We've got revision 2 that's coming out that, and like I said, the first set of books was kind of written more as textbooks, but revision 2 is coming out and it's going to have more of a self walk. You can walk yourself through this, right? So,
Yeah, most definitely.
excuse me.
Yeah, like I said, it does take a little time. It does take some patience, and it does take some meditation to get into that fact and make sure your chakras are in line and everything else to make this all work. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once you get to that point where you're able to push that energy away and keep it from absorbing into you, it's game changing, especially in your day to day life. When you step out and that gate in that day to day life where you're in those environments that are completely toxic that you have to be careful about, and now you can remove yourself from it and you can remove it from attaching to you. um, Even if it comes, and it comes to a point sometimes where you've taken on so much, before you go get in your car to leave, just take a moment to push that energy off and to shield yourself from it, so it doesn't come back with you. It doesn't travel with you. um, if it can make your day-to-day life better and allow you to relax better, to unwind better, to absorb the earth and the energy and the oxygen, and to rest and sleep better, then hey, it's worth it for me to put that energy to put that information out.
I think you and I will both agree that the fact with energy work and stuff, the best thing for it is to be balanced. Balance
Yeah.
is the main key to all of it, as far as I'm concerned, and because then you can actually, like I said, go to the left, go to the right, balance yourself back out so you're actually normal again and be able to use that energy the way you need to.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes. And so just a little information about some things that are coming up that we've got going on. Classes will be starting up. Our parapsychology classes will be starting up. I want to say Gwen probably will remember the dates better than I will. August is when the next class starts, end of August, and goes through February. I mean, goes through October. Sorry, that was a really long class. And each one of these classes, yeah, the first one's in the fall. So each one of these classes, we have our two days a week, our class. They're all offered online as well. So if you stay in touch with All Access Network Television, you'll see the advertisements for our classes coming out. Um, you can take the class online. We've had people on the other side of the planet in Japan and Australia take our classes. We do offer culminating events. We do culminating events for our classes, which usually is some kind of parapsychology event. Let's just say that. So it may be from a ghost hunt to a metaphysical event. So we have something that goes along through those times, and our groups become very close. From the very first classes we did years ago now. I'm not 100% sure how far, 5-6 years now. To today, we've got students that have stayed connected. We've got groups that have become very close friends. We've got there's some couples that are out there that are because of our classes. So it's a great group, a great environment and group to be involved in. And the great thing is such extreme walks of life. You've got from school teachers to soldiers to firefighters to nurses to metaphysical instructors, to store owners. I mean, everything you can think of is all in this. And when that diverse group of people come together and they take these classes and they work together, you can see some pretty amazing things. And those, what I call the aha moments, where those students have that moment of, holy cow, this is real, this is happening, and I just made this happen. Those things, those are my personal favorites. That's why I'm in this. To see that growth that those people have.
Yeah, most definitely. Another subject, maybe the next time we have you on, because we're definitely going to have you on again. Maybe we can get into a little bit of manifestation. Because that does go along with all this as well. And it does play a pretty powerful part in that as well.
Oh yeah. That's a little next level, but when you get to that point, what you're projecting, what people see when they meet you, what you want the world to see, what you want the spiritual world to see when they meet you is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
I've got a very close friend that has become a soul brother, family member. And when I first met him, there was a giant bear, and I'm like, why? He's a big guy. But I'm like, why does this guy give me such bear vibes? I'm like, this dude's a freaking towering bear, And then once I figured it out, okay, I know why this guy's a bear now, and I don't see stuff like that very often. So for somebody to project that is pretty powerful. I pick up on things, and everybody has their psychic type, right? And I pick up on things, and I can feel things, but I'm not as much of a visual person, right? So, and that's one of my wife's books is Your Psychic Type. So that's a good one to be involved in to kind of figure out where you are. Everybody's different, so what you're going to project and see is going to be seen differently. But I'll work on having something good for us for that next one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do that because, like I said, it does go hand in hand. And once you realize what you speak and put out into the world after you've been grounded, after you get your chakras online, it will change your life because it does make a difference in how you perceive things as well.
Yeah. Some of the things that you used to be very concerned about and worried about, and you realize aren't as important as they used to be. And then things that you weren't concerned about are very much important. It really realigns your views on life. And everyone that I know that has gotten involved in this I've seen them grow spiritually, physically, mentally.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody go backwards. I've always seen people grow and become better, stronger, healthier people because of it.
Oh yeah, I definitely will agree with that 100%. And especially when you got like teams like me and your team and the rest of the crew, that you're associated with All Access and the Boo Crew and everything, that energy goes to everybody and every one of you, and it makes you guys better,
Yes.
especially when you're around each other, working together, and being able to do that. It's all one thing.
Oh yeah. 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 When you've got a spiritual unity crew, they may not all know that's what they are, but that's what they are. When you
Yeah.
get a crew like that, it's amazing because we grow off each other too. Um, we've had people in the past that have had um, family losses and gone through hard times, and they've had us. They've had our crew, and like I had surgery once, and while I was going under, um, I looked up and there was that bear that fellow I told you about.
Mhm.
I'll tell you his name, Blaine Rowan.
I
I
know
saw
Blaine.
I saw this giant bear in the operating room as I was going under, and I was like, okay, all right. When I woke up, I said something to everybody, and I said, let's call Blaine. I want to let him know that I, I I'm glad that nobody else doing the surgery saw it, or maybe they did. Um, but yeah, it was pretty impressive. It was something that normally would strike fear in people, but when I saw it, it was very comforting. And like I said, we've got family member here. Um, our group is a giant family, and our students are giant families, and even students that graduated 5 years ago that haven't been actively going to the different classes and stuff still stay in touch with us and go to events and become part of things. And you can have somebody can call you and say, hey, I felt something was going on, what's going on? And you have those connections with people from years and years ago that you may
Oh
not have
yeah.
seen for a while. So it's amazing once you find your spiritual crew.
Yeah, it definitely is for sure, and it does make a lot of difference, especially when you're going out on investigations and etc. Because then you're all on the same page, and the understanding of what's going on there, it makes things so much easier when you're trying to figure out things as well.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, it's a good time. It's good times.
definitely, so we will definitely have to have a round two, Matt, and like I said, we're gonna get into a little bit of manifestation this next time, and we'll talk about that
Yeah.
as well because you're one of the best people I know with grounding. I mean, like I said, when I met you, I can definitely tell a difference when just some of the things we talked about when I was there, and
Right. Appreciate that.
understanding of what's going on. So, I mean, and is there any advice you would give a brand new team that is starting to go out that doesn't understand a lot of this? What would you advise them to do first, real quick?
Well, a new team that's getting involved in this, I think the very first thing I'm going to tell you is everything is not a demon.
I will agree.
And that is the go to that everybody has. If I can't explain it, it's got to be evil. And there's a lot of things that we don't fully understand, but there's a whole lot of stuff that people do understand, have it and have been out there, right? So you do have to prepare yourself for the possibility of being involved in spiritual warfare, and you need to
Hmm.
understand how to do that. But everything is not always a demon. You must first eliminate all other possibilities, especially when sometimes nasty people in life pretty much going to be nasty people in the
Oh
afterlife
yeah.
too, right? So
Yeah.
if you got a nasty person that decides he wants to just mess with people, you need to make sure that um, that's not just what you're dealing with. And many there's multiple different religions that believe that as many as 7 generations of family members are going to be with you trying to help you. And, it might be that uncle that might have been a little bit crazy that's knocking on the door because you won't listen to what he's trying to tell you, and he's
Yeah.
saying, hey, that guy you're dating is crazy. You need to get away from him. Or that girl you're dating is crazy. You need to get away from him. And so you won't listen. So I'm going to bang the cabinet door so you'll listen to me. Right. So sometimes you got to make sure that what it is you're trying to communicate with, right? What it is that's out there, but just, and don't always feel like you have every answer. That's something I see a lot in paranormal groups and investigation groups is they feel like they have 1 or 2 incidences happen. So now they've got the answer for everything.
Right.
Always be open-minded. Always be open-minded. We saw something this weekend that I have never seen. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And this is something that I've never seen before. And I actually caught it on film and got it on camera. And as far as I know, no one in North America has ever caught this thing on camera, which will reveal in a couple of weeks at a later time on the network. You will see it. So always be open-minded to what could be and what's out there, and never stop learning, and never stop training yourself and growing as a team. Right. That's the biggest things.
And also don't be scared to ask somebody's opinion and reach out to people too, because if you don't understand it, somebody might be able to give you that advice to help you solve what's going on.
Right. Yeah. And learn to marry the two, learn to marry the metaphysical side of things, the spiritual side of things, and the analytical side of things, because you've got different people that are the extremes in all of those. Learn to marry those together, because if you don't, you're losing out, just because you're taking away tools from the toolbox, right? Learn to work all those together, right? That's is a big thing to say.
Yeah. Like I said,
don't rely on one type or one investigation type only. If you think everything has to be, I have to have everything metaphysical, everything has to be spiritual, or it didn't happen, or everything has to be analytical, I have to be able to data prove every single thing that happens. You get caught up in that rap, then you'll never see anything. And I will tell you this, I'm going to give you this little hint for everybody that's out there. Everywhere, every location that you're going to go to has got spiritual activity. The trick is, are you doing the right thing to communicate? Are you worthy of communicating? If you're not getting information, if you're not getting evidence, you need to turn around and look within, because it's something you're doing. So analyze what you're doing and figure out how to get the information that you're looking for. Every place that you go has got spiritual activity. So look at it always follow that perspective and back up, redefine things. I've had situations where I had entities that didn't want to communicate with the guys, and I had to back up and send only the ladies in, and vice versa.
Oh yeah.
I had to pull the ladies out and only the guys would talk. Always be open. If you're not getting something in a reasonable amount of time, change your tactic. Look at something different. Look at things differently.
And like Matt said, and then I definitely agree with this too, learn different styles as well, because like me, shamanism, Reiki, Peru, the Egyptian, learn all different styles to help you understand certain things as well. And don't be closed-minded, because it does help out in the long run.
Yeah, it's too easy for us to look at something and say, well, this is the way I do it, and this is what I'm good at, so it's the only way that works. Mm-hmm. And just because something you're great or you're good at what you do, doesn't mean that's the only thing that works. Always keep yourself open.
And like you mentioned earlier, and I'm sure we'll both agree on this, what may work for one person may not work for the other as well. It's how we are and how we perceive it.
Yeah, that's right.
So, But yeah, so definitely stay open-minded and learn different type of things, and stay open to it, and don't be so closed-minded, because in this field you need to be open-minded. And I wish more people would be able to open up and share their knowledge with everybody instead of being so closed-minded about things, because something you may have that you can't figure out, I might have the answer to it, or vice versa, or somebody else, and they could open up a whole new genre of whatever's going on.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you've got to, like I said, it's good to try to build your teams with every aspect that you can think of. Um, and that way you're trying to cover all edges, right? All the edges,
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking outside of a square box, then there may be something happening all around you, but you're only looking out of one side. So try to make sure that you've got all of it covered.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely.
it's a great to have the I would say when I started out, I wanted everything to be easily proved. I wanted to be able to document everything. Um, but then I found out real quick that as soon as I turned cameras off and recorders off, things started happening. I was like, okay, so
Oh,
this is how this is going to be. So, and how many investigators out there have had that very thing happen in the
oh yeah.
process of breaking down? Now all of a sudden things start happening. As soon as people leave, and recorders get turned off, now all of a sudden everything wants to happen and all this information, stuff wants to happen. So, you know, always open yourself up to new things. Sometimes a personal experience is worth more than an EVP.
Yeah, most definitely. And also being able to help the person, if you go to residentials and helping
Right.
people, being able to help them understand what's going on, make them feel at ease so they can feel comfortable in their house, and not cause any more problems there than what's going on, and help them be able to resolve it. That's, to me, is one of the best feelings in the world, when you're being able to help somebody do that.
Yeah.
So it's not about the money or anything like that, but the fact is being able to help somebody in need and when they need to do it.
Never forget the why. Never forget the why you're there, why you decided to do this, why you wanted to be there, but always understand that why is going to evolve and is going to change. So why you originally decided to do this and why you stick with it and you're still involved in it 30 years later, it's going to be different, and just be real, but never lose sight of that. You never lose sight of what you got involved in this to start with and that answer that you wanted to have.
Yeah, because there's definitely going to be more. You're going to look for more answers along the way, because you're going to keep getting more curious. And like I said, it's once it gets in your blood too, it sticks with you. Because you want to know the unknown.
Right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Well,
This has been a lot of
Matt.
fun.
Yeah, I definitely like having you on the show. And like I said, we're definitely going to have one about manifestation and sit and talk about that as well, because like I said, it all goes hand in hand, and it definitely would help people a lot. And people that didn't understand, I think you explained things tonight very well and very thorough on how you did it. So people that could actually understand what me and you were actually talking about. So that's always a good thing as well.
Yeah, and keep your eyes on the network. I'm working on a video to walk people through it. Sometimes we're a YouTube world, and there's YouTube mechanics, YouTube cooks, hopefully not YouTube surgeons, but they're out there, right? So I'm going to work on a YouTube walkthrough video on it, right? So we can dissect it, and you can pause it and go through it, right?
Yeah.
Just don't take it out in the rain when you do it. But so we can, you can go out there and you can see,
Or have your
visual.
laptop plugged into the power source.
Right. If you're a visual person, you can, you can go through and see these things going on. Right. So yeah, I'll keep your eyes open for that. I've had several people say that they needed it and they wanted to have that. The people in the class said, I've actually had students that graduated years ago that said, hey, that changed my life so much. Could you put that in a video where I can see it multiple times? And I'm like, sure, we'll get that together. We got great videographers, great producers, great editors, so it will look wonderful, and they'll make me look good. So. And it'll be very, very informative. So keep your eyes open for it. We'll get it.
Well, like I said, all you guys over there, I know you, Lee, Gwen, you guys all do an amazing job. And, I actually joined you guys here at the beginning of the year with the network, and you guys all do a great job there. And we have done well together as well. I think all of us together, I think we've hit over 100,000 views as well. So that is definitely great that we're able to work together, be able to accomplish all that as well. And, that goes out to, Lee and Gwen, because they do a lot of that work behind the scenes, and they do a hell of a job.
They've got such a passion for it. And it shows, when you do something and it's just a job, that's one thing. But when you do something and it turns into a passion and you want to help people and you want to see something grow like that, and you get out of it, and you get that response, that feedback. It's great. It's great. I've watched this program grow. I've watched the system grow, and we've been involved in this for 30 years, but it's taken such an evolutional process across that 30 years, and it's wonderful to see where it's at now.
Yeah, I definitely, when I met Gwen, I told her, this is going to be the place that's going to grow, and it's growing. We're definitely getting more people. We're getting more shows coming to the network. And I think that's awesome. And that we all can work together and be able to do this and spread the information, spread the knowledge, and be able to share it with everybody as well. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So.
It is. Yeah, and we got some awesome stuff to come from, and like I said, I wish I could give you a little sneak peek of some of the really cool stuff that we experienced this weekend, but I've got some things I've got to do with making sure the people that own the land that we did it for, they need to see it first, of course, right. And then release forms and everything. So once we get all that done, you guys are going to be amazed at what we found. And plan on in the future. I definitely, if you're in South Carolina, go by that Haggard Mill. You're gonna love it. Yeah. You will feel it in your soul when you get there. It's a wonderful place. There's a great flowing stream that goes through it. The air is crisp, and when you're on that soil, you feel grounded immediately. It's a very clean, respectful place, and it's taken. You can tell it was a place of reverence for a long time. And luckily, directly across the street is where the South Carolina Cherokee powwow's at. So not only is it tremendous amount of energy over there, but then across the street when the powwow is going on, it is super intense. So I would definitely put that on your bucket list to go and see and be a part of and experience. It will change the way you look at things, and definitely change the way you look at American history and what was here, thousands of years before settlers showed up. So it's amazing.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Matt, let's close out the show tonight, and we're definitely going to have another one when I come back for season 3. I've got one more show left for this season, and then I'm going to take a little bit of a breather myself because I'm getting caught up with everything, and I just need to get refocused, regrounded, and get some stuff back in order for me over here as well, and pop in on season 3, and we'll talk maybe about manifestation when I come back, and we'll schedule that. And we're definitely going to have to get Mr. Brandon Cooper on here as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I got a chance to meet him down there when we were at the cabin, and he's He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, that's my battle buddy right there. He's
And
don't go anywhere whenever you need a pocket marine. He's right there for you.
so, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely have you guys back on when I come back for season 3. And I appreciate you coming on tonight and explaining grounding. And like I said, you did an amazing job doing it. And if you get a chance to go see Matt at an expo or a paranormal event and he's talking, definitely go check him out. And Lee as well, and Gwen, she does stuff with video editing and producing stuff as well. Definitely go check them out because they will give you a lot of information on things to do.
Yeah. We've got some great ones coming up. I think the next big thing for us, we've got the 21st. I think it's this weekend. We've got Savannah. We're taking some of our haunted objects from the Haunted Objects Lab, and we're taking it to Savannah. And we would love for people to come through, and we're collecting data on how they experience or how they feel when they're with these haunted objects. It's compiling data so we can better verify these haunted objects. Excuse me. It's going to be a great thing. We're going to try to do that. And I think the details have been worked out, for us to do that once a month, the last weekend of the month in Savannah at the Haunted Objects Museum that's there. Gwen will probably pop that in there where everybody can see it. And then the next thing is after that.
Yes.
Hey, Gwen. And then the next thing after that.
Yes, it's the Savannah Haunted Museum. Yes.
See, you always have to have a good director behind you. So the Haunted Objects Museum that we're going to. And then we've got Connecticut is after that, right? So in Waterbury, Connecticut, we have a Comic-Con, a Paracon. And I believe we're teaching classes at that. I'm not 100% sure, but we will be there. We will be able to work with you guys. We're excited about that. So seeing some faces that we don't get to see very often, it's going to be great. And then we've got the Deep South Paracomic-Con in Alabama, and I don't know if it's an Enterprise or a Dothan this year. But it's usually there right around there. I think it's two. Ozark. Okay. Ozark. Okay. Well, they're all kind of right there. Throw a dart and you can hit them. So that is a great one to go to. We are definitely teaching classes there. It's a good, real personal Paracon. You get right up there with the people, and it's a Paracomic-Con too. So there's a lot of Actors and
Paracomic-Horror-Con.
Paracomic-Horror-Con.
That's the one I need to go do because it's got a combination of everything I like.
Yeah, there's going to be some scaries there too. So and some great friends, and it's a really great time. You're gonna love that one. And those are some of the big things that we got coming up.
The weekend after the Connecticut, there's Paranormal Rockdown, which is Shawn. If you don't mind, can we play all those commercials real quick before we done?
Yep. If you've got them,
I do. Can I go ahead and play Savannah since it's next weekend? Would that be cool?
Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna play it now. Hang on.
Yep.
I got to push this. All right, hold on. I'm finding it. Here we go. Here you go.
Welcome to the Savannah Paranormal Museum. Where history and horror cross paths. Join us May 1st to see what's dying to meet you.
That's cool.
It's cool. Going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be fun. If you haven't been to Savannah and done Savannah and you're in the paranormal world any kind of way, that is one to put on your bucket list, right? You've got to do that one. I don't care what corner of the earth you're in. That's one you definitely want to be a part of. There's so
and
much
you want to
on
be there when we're there, so bring it on. Bring it on.
What a plus, right? Come on down while we're there, right?
Exactly.
So, it's not
Like
too
I said,
yes, I'm gonna push them all, y'all. I'm gonna push them all.
Like I said, I wish I'd lived closer because, like I said, I'm out there a ways. Go ahead and run Thomas's, Gwen.
Okay. Yes, we're going to connect also, you guys. Here we go.
So I don't know if you guys caught all of what was in that show that's going to be there. You want to talk about intense? You're going to be like, "Holy cow! It's going to be so much going on there." You're gonna really enjoy that one. Don't miss that one. That one's going to be one that's going to be on the list. You definitely want to be a part of.
Most definitely.
That's going to be a great show. There's some really great people and good talent that's going to be there. And all of those folks are so great. They're personal. You can go up, you can meet them, you can talk to them. You know, there are some real good people there.
Oh yeah, most
and that
definitely.
bear I was telling you about, you'll see him there too. I'm not gonna tell you, just wait till you walk up and see him. It's pretty obvious which one.
Yeah, if you see us, me, Short, Matt, and Lee, and then Blaine is yes. He has long hair. Yes.
We'll make sure that Gwen stands next to Blaine, so it's really easy to tell. Oh yeah, okay. That's the guy.
Yeah, that's him.
Right. Yeah. Imagine waking up and coming out of something on a surgery table, and that's standing there.
He was guarding you. He was.
Yeah, I know.
You.
He was. It's great.
And we're gonna guard him. He's having a little something done soon.
Yep.
So we're guarding him.
All of us will be there for him too. That great community that gets created in this environment, right? In this group.
Yep. It's wonderful. So we have one more actually, the Paranormal Rockdown. I'm gonna go to represent.
And I will definitely be there as well.
I wish Lee and Matt could go, but Matt has this thing called a JOB that is very yeah. But if you don't mind, I'm gonna play that real quick because those guys are like really cool and they're gonna help me out because I'm a little bit far from home up there. So let's play that if you don't mind, Shawn. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Brace yourself for the Paranormal Rockdown, July 18th and 19th, 2025 at the Haunted Broadhead Manor. Friday night, rock out with Dead Amsterdam, Left on Red, and headliner Green Jelly. The music may not be the only thing shaking these walls. Rumor has it the spirits love a good beat. Will you meet one? Saturday, meet paranormal legends like Dave Schrader, Sam Baltrusis, and more. Enjoy thrilling workshops, tasty treats, and a live Zoom Q&A with Dustin Perry. Dive into the ultimate paranormal investigation with expert guides. Or join a spine-tingling seance with Sam Baltrusis. Tickets are limited. Get yours now for an unforgettable weekend of music, mystery, and chills.
Yeah, that weekend
be fun.
That's going to be awesome.
I've been trying to convince these two to go, but you'll be missed. All right, Shawn, you got a bunch of comments that are just popping up.
What am I missing here?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff cool man. He wants to go to Savannah. I don't know how we do that, but Christy, I know there's a bunch of other. I think Michael. I don't know. Everybody. Matt, I boosted it out there, and you got people. You wouldn't believe how many people already watched this. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like I said, I know a lot of people at that Paranormal Rockdown, and definitely go check them out because there's a bunch of great people that's going to be there as well. I'll be wandering around in the crowd and mingling with everybody, and come up, say hi. Like I said, it's going to be a great time there. So, anything else you guys want to shoot out there real quick before we end the show tonight?
What you think?
Well, just stay tuned with All Access Network Television. There's so much to come. Pretty much everything I do and I'm a part of is going to be on this network, and it will be advertised. It may even be advertised before I know I'm doing it. So you may know before
that
me.
does happen from time to time.
So just keep up with that, and that's the best way to keep up with what we're doing, with what's going on with our classes and everything. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody join these classes, to go to these cons and see these people at these different cons. We're excited, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys there. And for all the listeners and everybody that's out there, just keep an open mind and make sure that you properly take care of yourself and love all your other people that are involved. Not everybody, most of them. Not everybody.
Oh man.
So, I will definitely say this here real quick before we shut down tonight. Like I said, I'd like to thank you coming on tonight, Matt, and talking about grounding and your experiences as well. Gwen, you always do a great job, what you do, and you're a hard worker at what you do, and definitely are noticed in a lot of this in the field for sure. People will actually look up to you as in the fact of you get her done, and you definitely do. There's just no doubt about it. You are a go-getter when it comes to producing shows and getting people out there. That's definitely for sure. And I'd like to thank you guys for letting me join you guys back in January. It's been a great run so far, and I'm going to continue staying with you guys as well. But I will say this. Next week will be my season finale for season 2. I am definitely going to take a break for a little bit.
Who you got next week?
I got Joe Frankie next week for the season finale. And,
he's cool.
Then I'm going to take a break for a little bit, and then we're going to come back gun-ho with season 3. And I'd like to get the team out in the field a little bit, and maybe we'll have some stuff pop in when I'm off. Maybe we'll have an investigation come up and go live when I'm on a little bit of a break, and get the team out there and running, and see some investigations going again for sure, because I definitely miss being out in the field for sure. So, but like I said, thank you guys for everything you guys do, and the All Access Network as well. And Matt, thanks again. And thank you, everybody, for stopping in tonight, chiming in, and have a great rest of your weekend, guys.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.